Today is Sunday, the 25th of April, the year 2021. Welcome to Agbakonitonile Odua. Agbakonitonile Odua translates to a prayer. May elders never cease to exist in Oduduwa land. It's another day. I am Erelu Tuwashe, the host. Agbakonitonile Odua is not an organization. I always say it's my ministry as a traditionalist, and the goal is to ensure we keep misunderstanding away from what we are all trying to achieve, which is to find a way forward to address horrific, complex challenges faced by Yoruba people worldwide, and indeed their neighbors, the Igbos and the Hausa Fulani. Let me emphasize that for the first half of this program, it's going to be presentation in English language. I always say my program is not to promote the use of English language. My program is to enable understanding of the challenges faced by the Yoruba people. However, having said that, the second half, that is when comments are being given, I want to apologize in advance to those of you who do not have the use of Yoruba language. Any of my guest speakers, any of the commentators in the Zoom area are most welcome to use Yoruba language. On that note, let me welcome you again and say the topic for today is the Yoruba referendum, the story so far. And I think it's important to mention the theme. Election campaign is a referendum, true or false. I hope by the end of this program, we'll be able to make up our minds. I thank you for joining me. Let me welcome Frank Bello on the media platform, Liberty Media Communication. Thank you so much for all you do to enable that this program is viewed by many all over the world. I thank you very much indeed. At some point, I will stop to bring him in to share with us comments coming to him from a variety of sources. I also do get comments and questions forwarded to me. Without further ado, thank you to those of you out there for joining me. Let me go straight on to my keynote guest speaker for the day, and he is Alagba Femi Odedeyi. Welcome to you. Over to you. Please introduce yourself as well as you may want to and address the topic for today, Yoruba referendum, the story so far. Welcome. Please unmute yourself. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, what do you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, clearly. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. And morning here. And I thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to present our position on the current issues facing Yoruba land. I'm going to just read through some of the things we have prepared, and it's divided into 3 parts, and it will be within the time limit that you have given me. One, we stated the problem, what we call statement of the problem. Then the part is under it, we have the Yoruba national response, and then the Yoruba experience, and then what is to be done, and why did we think that the Yoruba referendum is the way out. But first, before I continue, I want to define what we mean by Yoruba referendum so that we will clear the air on the confusion going on.
May I interrupt you to please introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry about that.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Well, I'm a simple guy. I mean, Femi Odede is my name, and I'm a member of the Yoruba Referendum Committee, which has members in various parts of the world, Nigeria, US, UK, and yeah, I mean, I think that's okay. We've been involved in this thing for a long time, and we feel also at this particular time is a historic opportunity for the manifestation of everything we have been advocating for, all of us, collectively and individually. But my name is Femi Odedeyi. In Yoruba, wọ́n ní Alàgbà Femi Odedeyi. I don't know the English word for Alàgbà, but Alàgbà. So, so okay. So we say what is the problem? And then we say that the recent events in Nigeria, recent and in historical, has now it is not being couched as insecurity, but it has again confirmed Africa's post-colonial experience as one of perpetual conflict between the post-colonial state and the various peoples, owing to the separation of the people from the state, with social and cultural existentialism of the peoples playing no part in the architecture of the state. The state thus becomes foreign, alien to the people, resulting in various civil wars across the continent, as we have seen all over the place. So what we are saying is that the post-colonial state that they gave to us after at independence has nothing to do with the cultural, historical, existentials of the people they are governing. It is just an apparatus to continue colonial rule, as we know. And that has been creating the problem. Of course, the problem can manifest in various diverse forms. While it is insecurity now in Nigeria, before, one of the reasons the military gave in 1966 when they took over power was what they call the 10 percenters, corruption. From 10 percenters, we got up to 100%. So it's been there, it's embedded in the nature of the state. It's just manifesting in different ways. It will manifest electorally through the elections, 12 2/3, and all the rest of it. So we know that. So now we said, how did the Yoruba respond to this question, both under colonial and current rule? So the Egbe Omoduduwa was founded during the anti-colonial struggles by Chief Obafemi Awolowo, and their aim was to foster a pro-development Yoruba sub-nationalism to complement and strengthen the pro-independence Nigerian nationalism. And that's a very essential ingredient, to complement and strengthen the pro-independence Nigerian nationalism, not to subsume itself into it, but to complement it. So in order to do that, they went into historical, cultural, and political moves towards achieving their goals and the regional development, which we also experienced. So now, after independence, we know what, when we say the golden era of Yoruba region was during the Western regional system, when the AG was actually in power between 1951 and 1960, so to say. So, and since independence, that colonial state has, started a deliberate move to truncate that complementarity. I said the Egbe Omododo, I said they want to complement and strengthen pro-independence. So what the Nigerian state began to do is to try to neutralize the action group in the West. And we know 1962, Coca Commission of Inquiry and all that, and all the things that happened, and the military coups. up to the point that during as at the time of the Biafra War, yes, the Awolowo group successfully negotiated the removal of northern troops from Ibadan, from Western region. But it was at the same time that the Biafran troops launched their offensive against the West. We all remember Ogun Ijaore, and all the rest of it. So while we had no troops to defend us, another invading force came in. So we were caught in the middle. So now, based on that and the after effects of the war, we began all kinds of political issues came up in Yoruba land. One, some said we should go to the center, what they call mainstream at that time, that we should go to the center and dissolve ourselves into it and all that and all that. And then the opposition to that came to be known as restructuring. Then restructuring through federalism or constitutional reformation of Nigeria. Now the restructuring now is still being promoted today, and I will link it up to the referendum and the question that arises from it. So those are the two major Yoruba responses. One, mainstreamism, getting to the center by any means necessary, and two, restructuring to regain the federalism that brought us brought us to independence. Now, in the mix of that, we now have civil society organizations like when they started the Sovereign National Conference, allow Akabashorun, even started by Yoruba themselves, Abashorun, Bekoran, Kuti, and all the rest of them. So they started mobilizing and agitating for what they call a Sovereign National Conference. And then we know what happened at June 12th and all the rest. Now, the question now is, initially at independence, we said we want to complement Nigerian independence. And by so doing, they formed the action group, which was actually translated into Yoruba language as Afenifere. That was how Afenifere came to be. They called the action group Afenifere, Freedom for All, Life More Abundant. So we now see the erosion of all that complementarity. And each one of these, restructuring, Sovereign National Conference, through federalism, attempted to address it. So in the process of addressing it or resolving it, all kinds of political issues came up. I won't go into all the different issues. I will go into our own. So what we now did was to say, okay, how Egbe Omo Oduduwa did its own is to first of all get the Yoruba historical cultural perspectives and turn it into a political movement. That was how Action Group came into being. And then they contested the election in 1951 and won the election, which allowed them to do everything they did at that time. So our own position, especially during the Babangida, June 12th, and all the rest, was how do we turn our frustration into a political movement that becomes the political issue of the day? Then we said, okay, the best way to do that is actually to address the constitutional deformation of Nigeria. The constitutional deformation, that is, when the military came in, they unitarized everything, took everything out, and all the rest. So we now created a platform, which we called Alajobi at that time. And then we developed with various consultations and all that, including major legal luminaries, major legal figures in Yoruba land at that time. Some of them have died now, Mr. Akonde in Lagos, and developed the draft Yoruba constitution. So how do we make the draft Yoruba constitution a political issue? Of course, all kinds of political permutations came in. Everybody went their own ways. They were doing all their politics. But the central problem, which I identified earlier on, that the state is foreign to the people, still remain. No matter how much you try to permit the state, that is why we have all the problems we have, because our own existential expectations are not part of the state. So that's why we are seeing when we Yoruba people have obas, for example, we have a kingship system, an obaship system, with all that it entails. That is not made part of the Nigerian state architecture. And then you have the sultanate or the emirate system, which is also different from the obaship system, which is also to a large extent not part of the Nigerian state architecture. So the Nigerian state is foreign to the Oba and to the Emir. That is why the Nigerian state is now saying they will be paying the Oba this, they will be paying them, they made them part of the local government and all the rest of it. So we now said, over time, how do we ensure that what we have developed becomes the major political issue in the land? And that brings us to the question of legitimacy and validity of what we are doing. Because whether we like it or not, the Nigerian state, regardless of our definition of it or our description of it, is a legal and legitimate entity recognized by the international community. It's a member of the United Nations. It signs loan agreements with other sovereign entities and all the rest of it. So if we are going to regain our lost autonomy, our lost ability to govern ourselves, whatever it is that we do must also be legitimate and valid, even by international standards. And that is the only way we can confront them. That was how the whole concept of Yoruba referendum developed. That, okay, since these people that are in power legitimize themselves by their regular elections, whether the number is high or not is irrelevant. The point is, whether they even conduct it violently or not, the point is, it is part of their legitimacy. We also need to get our own views to legitimize our own views among the people. So, and the only way to legitimize it is to conduct a referendum among Yoruba people by Yoruba people. By Yoruba people, I mean by those elected in Yoruba land to organize things like that. Recently, I think was it yesterday or day before yesterday in Lagos State, they passed a law in Lagos State on anti-corruption and all that, setting up their own anti-corruption agencies. It turns out that the state government actually has the capacity to do that, and we don't need the EFCC. That is the kind of thing I'm saying. So the legitimacy of what we are doing has to be established by those in authority, and there are ways we can make them make them comply with our wishes. We can go into that later during the question period. So what we are now saying is that if we truly believe, and Yoruba people truly believe, that the way Nigeria is not beneficial to them, then we have to register our disbelief and our disinterest in a manner that we show that we know what we are talking about. That's why we said the Yoruba referendum by Yoruba people through their state houses of assembly. And we cannot go to a pan-Nigerian referendum. Like I said, the National Assembly cannot conduct a referendum for us because our members, Yoruba members in the National Assembly, were not elected on the basis of their being Yoruba. They were elected on the basis of their being members of a political party, which is not even a Yoruba-based political party. So their presence there has nothing to do with Yoruba people. So they cannot conduct a referendum for us. That is one. Their deputy Senate president, Omar Gege, once some time ago, said that the National Assembly cannot even make a new constitution. They can only amend what they have. So if they cannot write a new constitution, then how can they come and conduct a referendum for us? That's two. Three, we cannot ask the United Nations to come and conduct a referendum for us for two reasons. One, the permanent members of the United Nations are our colonizers. UK is a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. UK is also battling with its own Scottish and Welsh problem. So how can they now come and say, oh yeah, you Yoruba people, we want you to go and leave Nigeria? Two, the second part of that is that when we talk of self-determination or even through federalism or restructuring, I will quickly get into that also. We are talking about our human ability that had been suspended or suppressed by colonial rule. What is the point of my saying I'm a Yoruba man and I want to insist on my Yoruba-ness and my cultural history and historical antecedents, and then go to the Oyibo man to come and conduct it for me? So it doesn't make any sense, aside from the fact that they can't even do it. So those are the three. So we are now saying, no matter how difficult it is, whether the politicians are down or they are not down, that is irrelevant for now. The point is, we Yoruba people have the capacity, because we are human beings, and we have the capability to ensure that we can get what we want within ourselves. And on that basis, we can then relate with other people, either in Nigeria or outside Nigeria. So, and that now brings me to the question of restructuring, the present confusion. Some will say, we don't want restructuring, we want Yoruba nation, we want self-determination, we want this, we want that. They are still the same thing essentially, because when you say you want self-government, you want to govern yourself within the parameters of your historical and cultural experience. What you are demanding is autonomy, as it were. But the question now is, how do you get there? So the slogans that you use to mobilize your people can be in any format, as long as you already have a laid out way of getting there. So if I come and say, yes, when they say restructuring and then they link it up with Nigeria, there can only be one Nigeria anyway. Even if Nigeria breaks up into 1,000 pieces today, it takes only one of them to call itself Nigeria, and that will be Nigeria. We can't all be Nigeria again. So it's not an issue. So the issue is, how do we achieve what we want to achieve, whatever slogan we adopt? That is the central question. Not because you call it restructuring and I call it Yoruba nation, then we are on different paths. No, what we are saying is, we have a problem. We all understand what the problem is, even though we can articulate it in different formats. The point is, we all recognize we are. So the question is, how do we get out of the problem? And the first part of it is on the question of legitimacy. That yes, we have agreed that we have this problem, and it can become legitimate only when it is handled within ourselves as a first line. If we don't do that, if we cannot do that, our legitimacy will be questioned. Because don't forget, like I said, No matter how we describe the current regime or the Nigerian state and all that, it is still recognized by the international community as a legitimate government. Even if there's a doubt, like what happened in Chad recently, that for whatever reason, they got rid of Idris Deby. What did France do? France immediately came to the side of the military. After the military had suspended the constitution and everything, came on the side of the military and said they want stability, in quote. Stability. So even no matter how we distrust the current regime or whatever, or whether it is Fulani this or Fulani that, the point is the state that is operating, that is controlling the operation, is considered legitimate by those international agencies that we think can just come and be our Father Christmas, as it were, which they are not going to be. So we now said this Yoruba referendum should be our flagship. It should be what every Yoruba organization and every Yoruba individual should aspire and align itself with. That is the only way Yoruba people can can speak with one voice, because it's not just you and me sitting down and saying, okay, Jatipari, Jamo, Aburawamo, we are no longer insulting each other and all that, and we are now friends. And then we start smiling at each other. No, the thing is, if we are talking about, and the referendum is very specific as to what it wants. We have published it. We can still publish it for those who have not seen it. And once you agree with it, and I agree with it, that is already one voice. And that is what we are saying, that what we need to do at this point is to look at the details of what we mean by Yoruba referendum. So far, and this is not a question of arrogance or whatever, among all the various things that are going on, the Yoruba referendum, bill for referendum, appears to be the only one that is specific as to what it wants. It's specific about how it's going to be conducted, specific about what its expectations are. In the event of a yes vote, what do we do? In the event of a no vote, of course, that's a different question entirely. So in the event of a yes vote, what do we do? We have stated what we want to be the kind of relationship we want with other peoples in Nigeria. Even those who are saying they want Yoruba nation now and all that, you still have to relate with other peoples in Nigeria. Otherwise, you will have a Yoruba country that will have to be fully armed, because you are going to have enemies on all sides, and you will be in a perpetual state of war. And that is not the kind of future we are looking for. That we are human beings. Because we are human beings, we can also anticipate a future. We can also create a future, because the future is actually in the present. You will not be fighting against what you think is wrong if you don't have a conception of what you think is right. So that is what we will now put down as your charge. And then it will allow you to create a pathway towards achieving it. So that's why we say we have started a petition on change.org. I think we will post the petition on the link to the petition on the chat room for those who may not have signed. And we have almost reached about 8,000 now. At every 5,000 signatures, we take it to the state houses of assembly and the governors. And we did that when we reached the first 5,000. We submitted it to them, including the bill and everything to them. So when we reach 10,000, we are also going to do that. So what we are now saying is, if we all agree, and we all agree that there needs to be a solution to the problem, there is a specific roadmap that has been laid out. If we all embrace that specific roadmap and then compare our legislators to carry it out in Oyo, Ogun, Lagos, all the Yoruba state houses of assembly. That is the first step towards confirming legitimacy on this. And when we say we have stated exactly what we want, we said, okay, if there's going to be a Nigeria, a federal Nigeria, it doesn't require somebody from Kano to come and contest election for presidency in Lagos, or somebody from Lagos to go to Kano to go and contest election for the presidency. All it requires is, okay, whether we call it zones or whatever, the Yoruba people elect someone among yourselves to represent you at the federal council. All the other peoples can also do the same. Let them elect whoever they want to elect, or select whatever the way they want to do it. They will form a federal presidential council. One, that has reduced the question of money in elections. It has reduced the question of whether it is zoning or no zoning or whatever. They can zone it among themselves. So when they get to the federal electoral council, they can zone it among themselves. So it has reduced a whole lot of problems. And then among them, they can choose whoever they want to be their leader. And then we said for ourselves, for the Oduduwa Yoruba land, we will run a parliamentary system which will also reduce the influence of money, in politics, like Erelu, for example. If Erelu wants to contest for legislative assembly in Ogun State, she doesn't need to come to Ibadan to come and campaign. She only needs to campaign, sorry to use her as an example, she only needs to campaign in her locality, and just everyone else. So the kind of expenses, the kind of expectations will be different, because you'll be responsible to your community, and the people in your community will know you. They will know who you are. And then what you sell, quote unquote, what you sell to your people is not the money that you have, but the character that is in you, because they can easily see you. Okay, so that is that. Then we now talk about the judicial system, that we will even have our own Supreme Court, which we used to have in the region before they cancelled it, when they brought in the 1963 Constitution. So we have our Supreme Court. All matters will end at the Supreme Court of the region, our own Supreme Court, not the Nigerian Supreme Court.
I have allowed you extra 10 minutes, so please.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry about that.
No problems, no problems.
I'm sorry. Okay. So, thank you. So we have our own Supreme Court, and of course the lower courts and everything. Of course, our own policing system, and our own economic philosophy, which is very important. In fact, that is the crux. That is a major part of the thing. It is not just having a country that matters. It is the economic and political philosophy that runs the country that matters. That is why we said when culture and your existential historical things are not part of the architecture of state, it becomes a problem. Why did Awolowo's regime succeed? They had an economic philosophy, what they call in development economy as developmental economics. That was why they created the Western Nigeria Development Corporation. That was how they came up with the marketing boards and all the rest of it, to make sure that the economy is able to stand on its own. We are without fighting the British, we were still under the British at that time, but they were still able to get their welfareist politics, because again, the welfareist policies they were doing at that time also aligned with some of the policies inside Britain itself. It's like what we have now because of the pandemic. All the major European countries have now been forced to review their economic philosophies. Their governments are now intervening directly.
I regret you need to end it now. I do apologize.
Okay. All right. So I mean, that's the I mean, those are the general things. So any questions that can then arise, I hope I have made a good introduction. But any questions can then be asked. Sorry to take up too much of the time. I wasn't aware.
No problems.
Right.
I wanted to allow you. Thank you so much indeed.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. If you've just joined me, a very warm welcome to you. If you've just joined the Zoom area, my Zoom area is never populated. No, please, you cannot ask any questions. My program operates like a court. All my guest speakers will be giving evidence. So please, I will suggest you ask no question. I'm going to go straight on to my next speaker, Evangelist Ige. As I said earlier on, Evangelist, kindly introduce yourself as best as you can. You have 20 minutes, but please, if you wish to take extra time, do let me know so I don't rudely interrupt you. Evangelist Ige, it's over to you. A very warm welcome.
Thank you very much, our dear Erelu. And I want to use this opportunity to say thank you again for inviting me to be a partaker or one of your guest speakers of honor on your today's broadcast. Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name again is Evangelist Joseph Babajide Ige. I am resident, or I live and work in New York, United States of America. I am the CEO of Divine Travel and Tours, an independent travel company, as well as the founder and presenter on Odua Media Group, OMG, New York. Both businesses are registered in New York State. So once again, good morning to everybody. Our keynote speaker, the lead respondent, the host, presenter, and the general listeners or attendees right here. Once again, my name is Evangelist Babajide Joseph Ige. So this morning, I'm going to be talking on Yoruba Referendum, which is the topic for today's program under the theme that says, I wrote it down. Election campaign is a referendum, true or false? I would say true. Especially with what our daddy Alagba Femi Odedeyi has just said or enlightened us, informed us, and educated us on. He did a perfect job to the issue of referendum, where we were coming from, where we are presently, and where we are looking into going. I can't fault that at all. However, with my own little knowledge that I know or that I would just like to add to it, even though countries, individual groups of people, by whatever means, number, large, small, medium, wants to be independent or wants to live independently. God, who is the most supreme, has not designed us, human beings, in a way in this life that you can just live independently. You cannot live independently, so you can't do alone as an individual or as a group without interacting, with other human beings, living and non living things. I would like to let us know this is what majority of us has already known. that about United Nations fundamental and human rights. And I would like to quickly read this statement from United Nations fundamental and human rights. According to the United Nations fundamental and human rights, it says in the document that there are 30 basic human rights that are listed according to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, by the United Nations. This document was signed in Paris on December the 10th, 1948, which must all be respected and protected by all laws worldwide. Some of it says, or I will quickly like to touch base on some of these basic human rights, which was signed by all that were represented on that fateful day, meaning the countries that were and continue to be part of this as members of United Nations. That all human beings are free and equal, that there must be no discrimination. There must be rights to nationality, meaning that everyone has a right to a nationality, that no one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his nationality nor denied the right to change his nationality, that there must be freedom of opinion and expression. There must be rights to assembly or assemble, that everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association, and that no one may be compelled to belong to an association or a country or nation that he or she dislikes. I will not take too much of our time, so I do not run out of time, even though the host has told me that I have the privilege and the honor to take a little bit more time, but I would like to consider other guests honor that will be speaking. So, fundamental human rights starts here again. It says that human rights are the most fundamental and important of rights, that they are the right that the government in the United States, this is fundamental human right, according to United States Bill of Rights and in United States Constitution, that they are the right that the government in the United States spelled out in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution of the United States of America. And they are the rights that the United Nations aim to protect for all people. If we hear that very well, these are the rights in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution of the United States of America, where I'm privileged to live and be a resident. But then, these rights are being adopted by the United Nations, and they aim to protect for all people of the world, regardless of where you live, especially whether if your country sign up or is a member of United Nations or not. And it continues that these rights will exist even without government protection or intervention. Examples of human rights are the right to life, the right to the pursuit of happiness, the right to freely exercise your religion and practice your religious beliefs without fear for being prosecuted for your beliefs, the right to be free from slavery, the right to freedom of speech. You have a right to freely associate with whomever you like, to join groups of which you will like to be a part of, which simply means that the right to associate and the like to disassociate or dissociate. This is one of our many reasons for the formation or looking into formation of Yoruba independent self-determination nation, to bring it together and to align it with the theme of this program this morning, election campaign is a referendum, true or false? Yes, true. Yoruba referendum, is story so far. So looking at this dissent, we know that we have international law, especially presently in Nigeria, Yoruba land. The 1999 Constitution, which the government of Buhari, the federal government of Nigeria, still believes on their own that it is what is still being used. I'm sorry to say, and I'm sorry to tell them that this constitution is no longer binding, because the amalgamation of 1914 that brought all the races and the regions of Nigeria together has long been expired. It has long been expired. And then the 1999 Constitution was put together by the military government under the Abdul Salam. And it is bombarded. It is too much a fraudulent constitution, a fraudulent document. Yoruba people have now woken up that we can no longer continue with this. So therefore, we would like to stand alone as an independent Yoruba self-determination autonomous nation. So therefore, we can form our own government, control our resources, take care of our people, make life better for our people, and do things on our own. So therefore, before we can go ahead and do this, there are stated steps and goals accepted by the international community. One of them is referendum. We do not pray for war. We don't want people to be killed. We don't want to go that route. So therefore, we want to go the diplomatic way, which now results or is taking us to look at the way of or through referendum. I know, a lot of people that buys into this idea, that are really, really committed into this struggle, into this race, into this fight for freedom. I've already walked far and wide. They have toiled, they have worked extensively on this. Based on my understanding, United Nations and superpowers of the world, the G8, the G20, I believe and I understand that they will not just jump or come to Nigeria to say, okay, we are going to conduct referendum. I understand it doesn't work that way. That they will leave Nigerian people, Yoruba people that want to be self-determining to work it out with the present regime or the government. That it will get to a stage where I believe at that stage, I am not sure, which is what everybody is expecting or looking forward to. However, people have taken steps. Letters have been written to United Nations. Not only letter, I have here with me a document that says Yoruba People of Nigeria Memoranda for Yoruba Nation Independence. It is a 50-page or 50 pages memoranda for Yoruba Independence Self-Determination Nation. It is copied to, superpowers of the world, especially to the United Nations Office on Genocide, because of what is going on. Nigerian federal government, the regime of President Muhammadu Buhari, have been served letter December last year They gave them 3 months, which expired, I think, March this year. Nothing was done, no reply, no response so far, no call for negotiation, no call for dialogue. The people headed by Professor Stephen Banji Akintoye, are taking it in a diplomatic way. They sat down, rub minds together. Another 30-day period was given. Still, Nigeria government, the state governors in Yoruba land, 6 of them altogether, refused to respond for a call for dialogue, for a call for debate on how to go forward. Whether they responded or not, the entire Yoruba people are determined to be self-dependent, to form our own Yoruba nation, to go our way. Yoruba want to exit out of Nigeria, not only because of the fraudulent 1999 constitution. I'm sure there is nobody seated here on this Zoom meeting this morning that is not aware of numerous, humongous reasons why Yoruba has to exit from Nigeria. I forgot what this grammar is used, but there are too many favoritism, in the north, especially under this presidency. Yoruba people are considered as second-class citizens, if not third-class citizens. Appointments into juicy positions, ministerials, other parastatals are skewed towards the northern Hausa Fulani oligarchy. Not that alone. If Yoruba and Igbo people have been left to run their business, take care of their life, it will have been better. But for over 5 years now, under the presidency of Muhammadu Buhari, there have been so numerous, so many uncountable killing, bloodletting, bloodshedding, kidnapping for ransom, trespassing on people's land, property is just too much. There is a total insecurity to lives and properties on the land in Nigeria. Now it has gotten to a stage that nobody, no life is at peace in Nigeria.
3 minutes, please.
Both the common men, women, the politicians, governors, senators, nobody's life is safe and secure. And so therefore, we cannot continue to go like this. So Yoruba people want to exit out of Nigeria. Yoruba people want a self-determination, independent nation. We want to form our own government, our own constitution, and we want to control our own resources. Conclusively, we do not want to go to war because we all know, or they say that you can only experience or see the beginning of a war. You don't know the end or how a war will end. So at this point, this is why Yoruba people are still going the diplomacy way for a referendum to happen whenever it is going to happen. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you very much indeed, Evangelist Ige. If you have just joined me, I am Erelu Tsonwashe. And as the program is on, I am delighted to say it's been watched by thousands of people on the platform of Liberty Media Communications. Frank Bello, thank you very much for joining me. As I said, if you've just joined me, permit me to repeat a couple of things before you arrive. This program operates like a court. My guest speakers of honor presents us with information backed with evidence to justify the topic for today, which is Yoruba referendum, the story so far. In particular, election campaign is a referendum. Evangelist Ige, thank you so much indeed. I'll go straight on to my next speaker. I have two further guest speakers of honor. Party 2 Yoruba Referendum Committee, headed by Alagba Femi Odedeyi, and they constitute what is today known as Yoruba Referendum Committee. They are not an organization, they are not new. They've been at this struggle, I would say, as far back as the year 2002. I thank you very much for all you've been doing from then until now. Permit me to go to their UK-based member. Alagba Femi Odedeyi is the coordinator. He's based in the United States of America. Let me go to their UK representative and permit me to remind you again, dear guest speaker of honor, once you take the platform, I wish you to introduce yourself as best as you can. Ogbeni Oludare Oyerokun, over to you. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. Are you there with us? I don't know why your hand is raised up. Alagba Odede, you know I wouldn't allow you.
Yes,
unless
I want to
point
speak
of information. I always say, don't speak like that. Please do not speak until I say you may. I beg of you.
I know, I want to give you information on Mr. Yerokun.
Let me ask you to speak, please.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Now we have got another speaker, which is, it looks as if Mr. Yerokun is not with us. The next speaker would have been Rahman Akmbi Shenge. But over to you. Points of information, Alagba Odedeyi.
Yeah, Mr. Yerokun sent a message. Mr. Yerokun sent a message to me privately that he had to attend to some issues. So he had to leave and he will come back. That was what I wanted to say. So yeah. He's not here. That's what I was going to say.
Thank you very much for the information. Let me therefore go to your third member, a lawyer, member of Egbe Omoduduwa, member Yoruba Referendum Committee. Alagba Odedeyi, let me go straight on to Alagba Rahman Akmbi Shenge. Over to you. Just to remind you, please introduce yourself as much as you wish, and you have 20 minutes to address the topic for today. Welcome. Alagba Rahman Akmbi Shenge, are you there, or Shenge? I do apologize, I may not pronounce well. Alagba Odedeyi, is he with us as well? The other member of your committee?
Yeah, I don't, apparently is not.
Okay.
Yeah, but Mr. Yerokun sent a message. That's the one I got here.
Yes. Okay, no problem. I guess we've heard from at least two very important members of the bench, one in opposition of which I don't necessarily mean that they totally disagree or there is any disagreement. Maybe it's time for me to bring in our lead respondent. What is the role of a respondent? He's been listening to what is being said. And I'm going to welcome in a moment very firmly said, I would like him to respond to what he has heard. And that is Chief Dr. Shola Oni. Again, I will invite him to introduce himself. Welcome to you, Chief Dr. Shola Oni.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Hello?
I can hear you. Welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Shola Oni. I am an orthopedic surgeon by trade, but I'm also the Bashegun Alabe of Ijebu-Desha. It's a title that I'm very proud of and which I use very often, even on my letterhead for my patients in the United Kingdom. Thank you very much for asking me to make brief comments on the two presentations that we've had. And I have to confess that I'm impressed by both, actually, because they looked at totally different aspects of the problem. Alagba, I think Alagba must be, translation must be elder, I think. Alagba Odede really encapsulated a lot of what we should be talking about. He starts with a problem statement, and then he talks about the Yoruba national response pre and post independence. Then he talks about the Yoruba experience, not an awful lot of it really, but he did talk about the Yoruba experience, and he also talked about what we should be doing at the moment. Now, and he really tells us that although we're couching everything in terms of insecurity, but in fact, this is a colonial legacy which has given rise to a perpetual state of conflict. And it says that is because the state is foreign and alien to the people. And he gives reasons for this. And a very good example, which I was very impressed with, really, was reference to our indigenous governance with our Oba and Co. That, we have a constitution that is written that excludes a major part of our culture and our history. And then he talks about the Yoruba response in terms of the action group Egbe Omo Oduduwa. In fact, I very well remember the 1959 election, and Awolowo writing action group on the sky. When I was a child in those days. And Alagba then talks about what happened after independence. Actually, I think the golden era was between 1954 and 1959. I think post-independence, everything started to go downhill from that state. And he talks about how, if you like, in inverted commas, the rest of the peoples of Nigeria ganged up on the Yoruba. And I've written about this myself. And then he talks about the Biafra problem, which I'm glad that he mentioned, where after after it had been agreed for troops to leave the western region, the Ojukwu and Co then seized the moment to attack the West. And we now get to where he was talking about the situation in the 90s, where some Yoruba wanted to get to the center by sponsoring the Sovereign National Conference concept. And the others were at that stage had been talking about restructuring to get to the state of federalism. And he talked about everything changing, particularly after Babangida came into office, and how he turned what was frustration into a crisis, really. And the idea of the Yorubas wanting to address what he called something I've never heard of before, constitutional deformation of Nigeria. I'd never heard of that before, which then led to the creation of a platform, the Alajobi platform. And at that stage, they then developed a draft Yoruba constitution, which I'm very pleased seems to have been based on the concept of Yoruba sovereignty, or Yoruba governance, if you like, which is based on the Oba system of governance. He then goes on to talk about those of us who want whatever it is we want, whether it is restructuring, self-determination, independence, that we have to find some form of establishing legitimacy for what we are trying to do. And this is where he says the concept of Yoruba referendum comes in. And he, from what I understand, unless I've got him wrong, was expecting the Yoruba leaders or leaders in Yoruba land to set up this referendum. And in particular, I think he mentioned the state houses of assembly as being the vehicle by which this could be done. And this is the only part of the presentation that I'm not clear about, but I presume he's going to talk about it subsequently. And this is that how do you compel the state assemblies? How do you compel them not just to have an interest in setting up a referendum, but in going through with it? That, from what I understand, although it is within the rules for them to organize a referendum, the question is you've got to convince them first, and this is where I'm not sure that he has got he has it apart from the petitions that he says that after every 5,000 signatures he will simply present it to them, but I'm not actually sure how that is going to convince anyone. Where things becomes interesting is actually from what Evangelist Igeden went on to be talking about, where where I was very impressed with him was actually establishing that there is a right for the Yoruba to live if they want to live. And he, as I understand him, what he was saying was that the rights of peoples to self-determination exist even without government protection. And I think he is right in that, in actual fact. And again, he was right to point out the fact that all governments worldwide, including Nigeria, as long as Nigeria remains a member nation of the UN, signed to the 80 different rights in the Universal Declaration. In effect, Nigeria says we agree with everything that has been written in that declaration, and I think if my memory is correct, that there was an ECOWAS case in which this was actually brought up. I think it was a case of some journalists that were being denied their rights. I can't remember the exact case at the minute. And Evangelist Ige was also talking about international law, which is true. And he was talking about the fact that the 1999 Constitution was no longer binding. Although I disagree that the amalgamation of 1914 has expired, but he brings that up. He also brings up the fact that the constitution, which was put together by Abdul Salam, was a fraudulent document, and that Nigeria and the Yoruba now wish to get out of that fraud and want to stand alone. And he rightly points out that the UN and the superpowers may not come to Nigeria to conduct a referendum for us, which is more or less what the Alagba said earlier. And therefore, those Nigerians or the Yoruba who want self-determination or autonomy or whatever it is they want will have to work out some sort of process by which this is to be done. He hasn't offered his own solution to this, but he mentioned two interesting things. He mentions the letter that has been written to the UN, and I will confess that I have written 3 letters to the Secretary General myself. And he also points out something that is exceedingly important, and that is the indifference and lack of response by the Buhari government. That the Buhari government is absolutely uninterested. So, for example, the letter that was written by the Ninas group, which required or requested for a response within 90 days, was just ignored. Even after they then gave another 30 days, it is still ignored. And this is the crux of the problem. Now, if that's my summary of what has gone so far, if I am allowed to just make my own brief comments.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Which is really basically on legality. I first of all define what is meant by referendum, really, which is a direct universal vote in which the entire electorate is invited to vote on a particular proposal. The result of that referendum, it isn't really a plebiscite, but that referendum is binding. Now, my understanding is that there are 2 types of referendum, and I think this is very important. Okay, although I'm not a lawyer, I have a qualification in law, which has allowed me in the UK where I live to act as a judicial office holder. There are 2 types of referendums or referenda. One is mandatory. This is the sort that is automatic, is compulsory, is got the force of law. This is the sort of thing that can be done to amend the constitution, or if there's an internal disagreement, you can use a referendum to solve that problem. It's mandatory. The second type of referendum is optional. This type of referendum is actually not birthed in law, but it can be initiated by government or by citizens. Now, although a referendum is not in the 1999 Constitution, it is actually implied. And I've been, been looking at the Constitution myself for a while now and asking myself, is there any part of this Constitution that actually allows a referendum to be carried out, although it doesn't say who? Now, what Section 14 or Chapter 14 or Chapter 2, Section 14(1)(2) says is this: that because the people or the sovereignty belongs to the people, technically or in effect, a referendum can be held under that provision. the sovereignty belongs to the people. So it is for the people to decide how they wish to be governed. So it isn't just a matter of elections. It is also according to the Constitution of Nigeria, as I said, 1412. It is also according to this Constitution that because the sovereignty belongs to the people, a referendum can be organized on that basis. And I also noticed that under the items 67 and 68 of the executive list, which is
Chief Dr. Oni, I'm not going to be allowing citing Constitution because the people of Nigeria has already agreed that that Constitution is a fraud, which started with we the people. So we cannot be going backward on the fact that we have agreed it is not a constitution, it's simply an instrument. Okay. So I would like you to focus on the validity of the referendum. Any suggestions?
I will come to that in a minute.
Thank you.
The reason why I brought this up was what the Alagba said earlier, which was that regardless of what we think, the world out there regards Nigeria as legitimate, regards Buhari as a legitimate president.
Correct.
So regardless of what we think, this is what the outside world thinks. And therefore, we need to ask ourselves, how do we operate within what the outside world thinks? And that's why, in fact, it was when he was talking that I started looking at the Constitution to find out.
I know that. I know that. Please proceed. I know that. Please proceed.
The only problem that I have had with the question of referendum is this, and this is open to discussion by members of the panel, is the Catalan experience, where they held a referendum, they decided that they wanted to leave Spain, and the government of Spain said no. And this is my so I have two problems which I hope we would discuss with time. The first one is, how do we convince our parliamentarians, that is in Yoruba land, I'm not talking of the rest of Nigeria, in Yoruba land, to conduct a referendum? That's the first one. The second problem is what I refer to, or what the evangelists refer to as the indifference of the Buhari government. That is, if we had a referendum and the referendum says we should leave, and the Buhari government says, who cares? What do we do? Those are really the two takeaways that I've got from all of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Bashegun. You will have another opportunity to share your thoughts. Let me go straight to some of the comments that we received. And Liberty Media Communications, please be ready to give us views as you receive them on your platform. I have a very interesting point here, and I shall read it. It says, the use of the words are meant to confuse the gullible. Referendum is a mere exercise to determine if the people agree or disagree on an issue. Before referendum, there has to be an idea or framework for governance. This will be in the form of a new structure of how to live together. In effect, the work out of a new structure has to be formulated. It will then be followed by a vote to accept or reject by the citizens, referendum or plebiscite. It beats me why otherwise educated persons becomes easily confused. That came from Alagba Fakbomuda, who I know I tried to bring him straight into the Zoom area. At this junction, we're coming to the last half of my program. If you wish to communicate in Yoruba language, Wonderful. Let me go straight on to Liberty Media Communications. Any thoughts you wish to share with us? Mr. Bello, over to you.
Yes, Erelu, we've got a few handful of people. I'm going to take the very first ones from the bottom of the stream. Taiwo Banso, I'll be posting them onto the stream. Taiwo Banso, thank you very, very well. Thanks, Erelu. The Constitution is a fraud and cannot be a basis for any submission. And again, here, he gladly said Yoruba political and office holders who cannot speak out against killing, atrocities, and the destruction of Yoruba agriculture businesses cannot be a voice to champion the Yoruba cause. And Timmy Kingswell here thanked the evangelist who submitted his own presentation. Now, here we've got another interesting one. Timmy Kingswell again, who said, we don't want any politicians to conduct or champion any referendum for Yorubas. They can't be trusted. Erelu, I'll hand over back to you.
Thank you very much. And I think that is what we must focus upon, because the whole of, earlier on today and yesterday, there was a lot going on the social media network. People saying, we don't want certain people to conduct the referendum. We already been told that United Nations is going to come down and go and do this. So I think we will be doing injustice if we don't ask the question, who is best to go ahead with this very important exercise called Yoruba Referendum? I have had a submission from Yoruba Referendum Committee saying it is in recognition of the fact that a government is in place, and it, one dare says, a responsible government like my government, the Conservative Party government of the United Kingdom. Once upon a time, we had a referendum when Scotland decided it wants to be out. Why then wouldn't we have a government of the Federation of Nigeria? If I can call it, it's a federal republic, it is federation. Why on earth are they ignoring the cry for a solution? The Igbos have been saying they are fed up. They want to divorce this husband called Nigeria for a very long time. Nigeria refused. Some would argue that assisted by Yoruba, Igbo hasn't been able to leave. Later on this afternoon, I'll be welcoming the people of Middle Belt, the Hausas, will be talking about their plight in the under the administration of the current regime. So let me be focused. And as I said, please speak Yoruba. Oni ta ló tọ́, ta ló yẹ láti ṣe ìwádìí fún wa. Aláṣemọ́. A ti gbọ́ wípé nígbà tí wọ́n gbé ètò kan jáde, ìlànà ọmọ Oòduà ló gbé jáde pẹ̀lú àwọn tán wà ní Middle Belt. Wọ́n fún wọn ní 90 days. Wọ́n ní tán bá ti dá wọn lóhùn, àwọn ò ṣe mọ́. Wọ́n dẹ̀ ní wọn ò ṣe mọ́. Ibi tá a wá bá dé ń sìn. Ta ni ó lẹ́tọ̀ọ́, ta ló yẹ láti ṣe ìwádìí? Who really should be in the best position to carry out this important exercise? For far too long, we hear this nonsense. Unity of Nigeria is not negotiable. We prove on this, my program, that it is negotiable. Now, we need to move on. Who is best? Thank you, Bashegun Alabe. Bashegun ní àwọn tá ní kán wá ṣe referendum wọn dá yín lóhùn. Agúnlá agún tẹ́tẹ́ ibẹ̀ náà wà. Agunla, Aguntete. They are not even listening. But having said that, recently the newspapers suggest that federal government of Nigeria is set to invite a British envoy, Ohaneze and Afenifere, to UK. They are coming from Nigeria. The British envoys, the representative or representatives of Ohaneze and Afenifere going to come to UK. It's not new for somebody like myself who's been in British politics for 36 years. We've had this before. When Sharia was being proposed and I didn't read it in the paper, I happen to have the privilege of being there to preside. So let me make it quite clear that there is already a plan being proposed by federal government of Nigeria. And Afenifere is going to be the organization to represent the Yoruba, no doubt. Ohaneze, the Igbos. Now, are we going to ensure Afenifere, should this meeting in UK take place, be emphasizing that a referendum needs to take place? Or would Afenifere be restricting the negotiation to just one agenda item, restructuring? Let me not take your time any further. Let me invite Alagba Fakonda, a retired civil servant, quite skilled and experienced. I hope he's here in the Zoom area. I'm going to invite you in a couple of minutes to please comment on what is going on. But let me go straight into the chat room and read out some of the things that have been posted. Let's see what's been posted. Right. One says, thank you for sharing the link for both Liberty Media Communication as well as the petition on Yoruba referendum. Frank Olalaye says, can we file a case in a world court in Hague to be self-governed since the amalgamation has expired? From Femi Odedeyi to everyone, there is no expiration to anything. Colonialism is a political issue. The Yoruba have been participating in all Nigerian issues with or without amalgamation. Amalgamation is an instrument of colonial rule. To address it means neutralizing colonialism itself. Yes, the world court can be approached, but on what standing? Local standard, we will say. Let me go straight on to Frank Olale again. Approach the world court on the expiration of the binding authority called Nigeria, and that the Abacha Constitution was not properly signed by all representatives of the country. This approach will make us to be fighting on all fronts for the same cause. I go straight on to Solomon Oluwabi. Frank, can you provide more information on so-called expiration? That is, what do you mean by stating the amalgamation expired? Back to Frank Olalaye, land ownership in every country lasted for 100 years and expired. At what point does the amalgamation that binded the Northeast and Western Nigeria together expired? Is this 100 or 200 years? He continues, if we are able to get this right, then we can file a separationist, just Northern Ireland in England. I think that means he's trying to make reference to, again, United Kingdom and Northern Ireland. Then Sam Bayo, the Catalan experience was that the referendum was not legitimized, hence the problem. Now from Wale Oni, Afenifere cannot represent the Yorubas. From Solomon Oluwabi again, why is it that Afenifere cannot represent the Yorubas? Okay, let me see. I think I will continue dialogue in chat room. I won't be going there again. Let's go straight to one important point. And I'm going to start with Babajide Ige. Evangelist Ige, one of my special guest speakers of honor. Who is best to go ahead with this referendum? Do you agree the proposal of Yoruba Referendum Committee, which says it's the responsibility of the government to be able to do so? And I want to make reference to what Bashir, that is Chief Dr. Sholauni, said. Is there a mandatory requirement for the Federal Republic of Nigeria to even answer your conjunction? So let me go to you, Evangelist Babajide. Please, what's your take on this? Who is best? Bring United Nations back. Who's the politicians to do what they need to do? Over to you.
Thank you very much, Erelu. That question is very, very laughable to me. I'll tell you why I said so, man. And I want to believe that you are asking me that this is not a yes, neither a no answer, correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much, man. It's very funny. And a text just came to my phone, which is very, very prompt. I'm going to read it out. There is no source to it, but I believe it's what is going on. To answer your question, or the question, the team directly, man. In as much as it is the duty and the responsibility of the Nigerian government to conduct the referendum, right? Had it been that everything is right, had it been that everything is working right, had it been that they are using their common sense in par or in relationship or to compare with what happened in the United Kingdom, nobody seated here this morning in his right-minded will trust Nigerian government or believe that they can do the right thing. When they cannot conduct election right in Nigeria without fraud, without rigging, I would never be part of that country again if Nigeria government is allowed to conduct this referendum. In as much as they are in the best position to conduct that referendum, but the international organization, the international community, everybody knows that. As a matter of fact, let me shock you. Let me shock all of us, if I am permitted to use that word. Nigeria government, even themselves know that they cannot conduct that referendum. In as much as, and even if they are willing to, they know that they cannot conduct that referendum. They know. Because from all indication, they already stabbed themselves in the back, they already shot themselves in the leg. How would somebody now want to come and conduct a referendum, which would be their fundamental right as a government, just like it happened in the United Kingdom? They should be taking all the glory. But look at, from December last year, we are going into the 5th month. So it's well over 4 months, just a little bit more to the 5th month. The first petition letter in form of contact was written to them, going, no answer, nothing. After that elapsed or expired, another 30 days was given, nothing. Presently, SARS, Nigeria government to me is a swimmer that doesn't know how to swim, but that now jump into a ocean. They're already drowning. They are just struggling for bread. No idea, nothing. I'm going to quickly read this to us. Just came in. It might help. Because the reason why I'm reading this is that I believe that from every rumor or humor, there must always be an iota of truth. This says that updates on Nigeria referendum, restructuring, and asylum. This is very important information for The United Kingdom withdrew the asylum because of United States advice and not because of Nigerian government protests and threats. Classified reports. United Kingdom took the advice of the United States that asylum to the persecuted Biafrans is not the best option, but rather to focus towards restructure or referendum. During the meeting between the United Kingdom and the United States, officials of the Biafran agitation for self-determination, mind you, there are a lot of work, underground work going on in Nigeria, federal government of Nigeria, the politician, the House, the Senate, the House of Rep, the Biafran, the Yoruba people, just like we're doing here, the United States government, the United Kingdom. If not, why did we just experience United Kingdom military in Nigeria? That
let me raise the point of order. Not evidence that you can advance in support of the matter before. I want to thank you for your contribution. Unless there is any further point, I have been sent a message by Alagba Elder Femi Odedeyi, a point of information he's seeking to correct. So unless there are crucial points you still wish to raise, I want to go straight on to Alagba Odedeyi. Any further evidence you want to advance in support of the question I raised, which is further cross-examination of yourself? And the question is, who is best to conduct this referendum? We have established that it's necessary. Who is best?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ma. Who is best to conduct the referendum in Nigeria, as far as I'm concerned now, with examples in the recent past that has happened, is the United Nations, and they are not shying away from their responsibility. Anything short of United Nations coming to Nigeria to conduct the referendum based on their set down rules, motive, and everything, it's not going to be. It's not allowed.
And that's where I'm going to leave it, because I don't want those who are watching us to not have a clear idea of the position of your good self. Thank you for your contribution again. I go straight on to Elder Femi Odedeyi. Please, I would like you to advance information to enable the viewers, the listeners, to be very clear on the question, which is further cross-examination of yourself. Who is best to carry out this referendum?
Okay, thank you very much, man. The clarification first. We are not asking the Nigerian government to conduct a referendum. That's not what we are talking about. And it is in all our documents. Now, in direct answer to the question, we are saying it is the responsibility of the various houses of assembly in Yoruba land, Lagos, Oyo, Ogun, Ondo, Osun, and Ekiti states, to pass a law for that referendum and to conduct the referendum inside Yoruba land by Yoruba people. Now, that provides us with the legitimacy that we need. If the United Nations is even going to take us seriously, that was what Governor Akeredolu said in response to Professor Banji Akintoye when they made their ultimatum. Governor Akeredolu said, where did we Yoruba agree to what you are saying? In fact, he used the word referendum. He said, where did the Yoruba conduct a referendum? So that shows that they also, that is those who are in government, that is the governors and the House of Assembly, can be pressurized. We can go into details of how to do that later. But now, What we are saying is that because of what they call real politics in international diplomacy, yes, a lot of meetings are going on and all that. And the UK is even a very good example. If the UK is fighting tooth and nail to prevent Scotland.
Maurice, I'm going to stop you. That is no evidence in support of my question.
Okay,
You've already answered my question.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
So what we are now saying is that as human beings, we don't need any declaration from anybody to say that we want autonomy or self-determination. We are created by God to govern ourselves. Now, the question is, some people took it away, and we are now saying we can take it back. And we are saying the way to take it back is to get ourselves together and put pressure on whoever our leaders are to make sure that we take it back. That is the simple matter. So if you don't take your more but àti ìgbé ẹrù ara wa àwa ní káwọn kan máa bá wa gbé. So we have to take our own load. We have to, no matter how difficult or how almost impossible it seems to be, we have to take it up. That is the challenge of self-determination. If we cannot compel, that is a strong word, if we cannot compel our political leaders at this time to do what we want, then we are not even pursuing self-determination.
Thank you. I'm going to leave it there. Let me right now, no more from my guest speakers of honor. I'm going to go straight to the Zoom area. In particular, Tabara Nitove Bere Abisto so African. Inomi Adun was okay. Over to you. We are coming to the end of the program. I always finish sharp on time. Any comments from anyone?
No, you are calling me. You're not calling me again, Akifa Ponga.
I was looking for you. Over to you. Thank you.
Okay,
thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, wherever you may be. I just tried these days to enlighten because many of us, we just bandy words around and ideas, and we don't really know the depth of the issues. As somebody said, Afenifere cannot represent Yorubas. What is Afenifere? Afenifere is House of Awolowo. It's Yoruba name for Action Group Political Party. It became Committee of Friends, became Military Party of Nigeria, became Alliance for Democracy. Then Ahmed Tinubu took it and made it Action Congress, and hijacked it and gave it to the Fulanis. We have not recovered from that hijack of separating him from the proper House of Awolowo. House of Awolowo is still coming back. People should not trivialize the history of where we are. If you say Awolowo cannot represent Yoruba nation, who can represent Yoruba nation? Give me the alternative, we'll follow you. That's education number one. Number two, referendum is just so, people hold as if it's the silver bullet. When you shoot the gun, then everything, that's not correct. You also have done a body of ideas, summarized in a way that can be said yes or no, like Brexit in UK. We have not even done anything to articulate what we want. I just say referendum. What will referendum do? It's mainly yes or no question. Do you agree to leave Europe or not? But you have verified on if they leave, this is the reason. If you don't leave, this is the reason. You have to have done detailed analysis of the options for able to agree. Number three, UN will not come and displace a sitting government in any country. Why are we just thinking this way? UN will not bring soldiers to remove government in Abuja unless government in Abuja invites UN please come and help us do this thing. They will not just come. People say, oh, UN. UK, okay, see UK now. They are consulting US. We think they're acting in our interest. They are not. They want us to remain where we are now. So please, let us stop all these emotive thoughts. We have serious fight to conduct in the next 1 or 2 years. We have to be strategic in our thinking. We are the one that will do. Look, let me give you a very vulgar, please pardon me. Husband and wife, the day the man or the wife packs out is not the day they have sued for divorce. The man, look, Dr. Ajayi left his marriage. 10 years, he moved to an hotel first before he married Ellen Prest. 10 years, he moved to the hotel first because he didn't like the first wife. So if we don't like Nigeria, we have to do so many things that will show that we are serious. In fact, when the Fulanis see what we are doing, they will know, these people are serious. So if, for instance, now we have a panel, next 3 months, produce and agree to Yoruba constitution, and they say we are doing it. The next one, we produce a approved map of Yoruba land. The next one, we agree on the governance structure of Yorubas. The next one, we produce a blueprint for running affairs without crude oil. We don't want oil money again. Those 4 steps will make them see that these Yorubas are serious. They are serious. Then they will now say, come, let us talk. We may talk before war starts. We may talk after the war also ends. So restructuring is called to say, come, let us negotiate our assets and liabilities so that we can go cleanly. Nothing wrong with restructuring talks before war starts. But for people who are saying, I'll do a nation tomorrow, okay, if you call it next week, Monday, I will follow you, I'll be in Ibadan. Declare it. If you have the muscle, but after we've defied, we must come and say, all the debts of Nigeria up to date, we have to share it still. It's still the restructuring talks that will make you share that debt. So please, I just beg all of you, let us just do more serious thoughtfulness into this matter. It's not just word, restructuring, the determination and all that. Afenifere is the only body that made Yorubas to feel good ever from 1954 to 1966. It's the only reference we have, a sample of good government. Awolowo has died, but the body of what he has written that will guide us is on ground. We need to translate all his books into Yoruba and promote it.
That's not part of my matter before court. Thank you, Alagba. You know, now, I think we also need to add that Professor Banji Akintoye, the leader of Ilana Omoodua, is a member of Afenifere. He is a member of Afenifere. So whatever Afenifere is proposing to do, he is a member, he's part of it. If there is an organization proposing to serve pounded yam to Yoruba people, and Yoruba people say they don't want pounded yam, everybody who is a member of that organization is proposing to serve the food that Yoruba doesn't want. Professor Akintoye is a member of Afenifere. On that note, I want to begin to reach out to some form of conclusion. So far, it's been made quite clear by those who have competently and eloquently advanced evidence in support of the way forward. The way forward, which is why the topic is Yoruba referendum, the story so far. Two sectors, Yoruba Referendum Committee, and of course, the Evangelist Ige did not tell us that it is on ministry. He's moving this on his own. I know he's connected to organization, but one thing I admired about him, which is why I invited him, is because he is a champion. He's a champion. He flies using his money from one place to another, from New York to Dallas to wherever he needs to get to. I thank you very much, Evangelist Ige, for joining me today, and it's been quite illuminating, your contribution. I also want to thank Eshe Modupe. I also want to thank Alagba Femi Odedeyi. From the moment, I was scratching my head a few months ago, saying I must bring out those who have been at the forefront of getting it right. Getting it right. I know there's no way I can find Dr. Frederick Fashion. It's impossible. I cannot find Papa Awolowo unless I go and find Ambassador, Her Excellency Ambassador Olatokunbo Awolowo Dosunmu. And again, although she's not on this platform, it's a gratitude to her for all she's doing. And there are others. Sadly, Alagba Yinka Odumakin has just left us. He has just left us. He was at the forefront, making way, digging the ground. May he rest in peace. One want to thank Osun State government by receiving his body in a stately manner. Thank you. And if you haven't read what's His Imperial Majesty Ooni of Ife, what he said, it's a good idea to read that. And of course, Papa Chief Ayo Adebanjo, the current leader of Afenifere, a 94-year-old gentleman, a lawyer, a politician. I pray when I get to his age, I will be as able to articulate things as he's been doing. My heart goes to him, as it's hard to witness the loss of a very young Afenifere chieftain. But I know he's determined to get it right in his lifetime. I pray he's able to do so. So let us remind ourselves that the journey we are on at this point in time, we are so close to getting to where we need to be. We are so close. We will get there when we do two things. A lot of jaw has got to take place. A lot of jaw. Exchanging thoughts, sharing ideas. I'm not a great believer in threatening people, threatening to break the head of a monarch. I'm not into that. And I'm not interested in we are coming to get you about. I don't belong to that class. I belong to people who are sensible. I don't belong to the breed that insults other people because they are so frustrated and incapable of managing their anger. I've just seen someone raise up his hand. Sam Bayo, over to you. Over to you. Please unmute yourself.
Okay,
Sam
thank
Bayo?
you. Thank you, Erelu Esheun. My question will be probably towards Alagba Odedeyi.
Yes.
He gave very detailed explanation on the structure way to get the referendum. I must say, I've been very active for quite some time now. I've never heard of this group, Yoruba Referendum Committee. I'm thinking, will it not be a good thing to get to as many groups as possible and dialogue and discuss
and share ideas, because different groups are doing different things. And kò ṣe pé they are doing wrong things. Ọ̀rọ̀ yìí bí ọ̀rọ̀ ikú erin ni, ẹni máa mádà, ẹni máa mọ́bẹ, ẹni máa yọ jígà, and all kind of things kó ba lè tán. So I'm just kind of challenging Alàgbà Odédèyí to reach various groups as possible, and let's discuss. Like you said, Erelu, it's not about insulting, it's not about pushing blame, it's not about individualism kind of a thing. It's about sharing ideas so that we all know the way forward. Because he mentioned compelling, which is a bit strong, but it's doable. Because if you imagine hundreds of thousands of people.
I'm going to stop you there. One thing I get used to is Yoruba giving suggestions and then they're giving explanations. I have to apologize. I want to hold on to the concrete suggestion you have made. And that is self-explicit. You are simply saying, this group, Yoruba Referendum Committee, you've never come across them. As I said earlier, I scratch everywhere. I have my class. You will see my Zoom area is now full of hundreds. I'm not interested. I am not interested. I need people with common sense to come to my program. I'm not interested. I don't go to groups where they are collecting hundreds, and half of the people are just passengers. They have nothing to say. So I want to thank you, Alàgbà Sambayo. You are in order. But let me say, a lot, these Yoruba freedom fighters, I've been a Yoruba freedom fighter since 1978. And as far as I'm concerned, I only stay on the path of those who want to articulate solutions. I'm not interested in those who are going to be running around like headless chickens. And I don't want a title. I've been a Erelu Tuwashe for the last 30 years. I don't need more. So I don't want to be made anything. So let me say, I thank you for your suggestion. Anytime you tune to this program, many will tell you what we do is focus on issues. And one become a shepe. We don't have time for such nonsense. No. The problem we have is, according to Ifa, when we consult through Okpele, we ask on the right side, we ask on the left side. So there are some who will follow the path of doing what you are talking about, and there are some who don't want to listen. They are bullies, they are violent with their language, and they really are not the right people for anybody to go and talk to. And I want to say, nobody can criticize them. That's the path Olodumare has put out for them. But Alàgbà Odédèyí, thank you. The very first time I reached out to him, I had to go through people who trusted me, not because he's hiding. These are people who've been at the forefront of things for years. And you see, some of us have been involved in Yoruba freedom fighting for a long time. And when the new ones come, they behave as if they've been at it. These are the sort of people that have been at the forefront of it. I brought her Alajobi. I brought her out Atayeshi. And when Betty Wa, Afenifere is 72 years old organization. Tiodaru, 72 years ni Alajobi ti wà. Ẹgbẹ́ Ọmọ Odùduwà ti wà. Atayeshi ti wà. And so on and so forth. Let me say, Nteso Oyemi, Alàgbà Odédèyí ti gbọ́. Ṣùgbọ́n àwọn tó bá fẹ́ gbọ́rọ̀ yàn, náà máa lọ bá Kíṣà náà máa ṣe pé. Náà máa lérí ogun. Ogun kọ́ la fẹ́ fi dàrú. Ṣó ti yé yín? Whereas traditional Orthodox. Ṣó yé yín? We've got to why we were, so that people, he's a very fine gentleman. It's not a go to where I want to check pay. No, you need to change your character. Let me go straight on to Frank Bello. Over to you. Over to you, Frank Bello. Ashe Alagbasambayo.
Yes, thank you very much, Irelu. I think at the top of my head, I have a question, and I think Dr. Akin Fakbonda is probably the best person to tackle this very tough, difficult question. Now, currently, Dr. Fakbonda, we've got three different groups within the Southwest. Well, I broke them down into three. The first group are those in line with my own ideology for a clear Yoruba nation. Those are the agitators. The second group in the Southwest that I am beginning to see emerging are the group that you probably you are one of the pioneering members of the Eminent Elders Forum. Those that are thinking of taking the country back to the 1963 Constitution and regional autonomy.
Alagba Frank Bello, I think the matter before court doesn't take us. It's Yoruba referendum. That is the topic for today.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. And then the third group, if I may probably round that up, are those that are agitating for a 2023. But the question is, how do we tackle all these three individual groups that are broken down in? And with greater respect, that evidence is not going to support. The theme for today is referendum election campaign. It's not relevant. I will come back with perhaps the next segment, which is going to be looking at middle belt, will be the appropriate one. I totally apologize. I do not believe it's going to add any value to Yoruba referendum, the story so far, unless, of course, I want to turn it around and say, I can't even see how it's going to further explain Yoruba referendum, the story so far, other than to say we have agitators, we have Eminent Elders Forum, and of course, we have the third group. But let me put it to Alagba Fakbonda, but I'm going to put a caveat. Unless you are focused on Yoruba referendum, please do not answer the question. Over to you, Alagba Fakbonda.
Yoruba referendum, the goal is Yoruba want to be on their own, based on express wish and decision of the Yoruba people. But we ought to articulate the wish of Yoruba people. Most of us want to be free to be on our own. The thing now is, how do we get to that point where we're able to say, decide yes or no? That's the point. I'm going to Eminent Elder Forum to see whether we can get other Nigerians to also do the same in the area so that it be simultaneous, so that will not be happy Yorubas are acting alone. That's my involvement in the Eminent Elder Forum, which is a Nigerian platform. Let us, and we believe that referendum will be on whether you want to go back to 1963 or not. It's a question that we have to answer to. If you answer yes, that gives us more than 70% of what we want as Yoruba nation. If you're able to say, referendum issue Yorubas or the whole country, decide whether you want to go to 1963 Constitution, use it to replace 1999. That's a valid referendum question. And if you agree for the whole country, then we have attained, as I said, almost 70% what we want. In fact, it gives us the landing point now to now say, if you have got 70, we'll go over to the whole org. We'll roll out our own flags. We roll out our embassy in London, in UK, in France. Let them take us to point if they want, you know. So it's a process that we're all pushing, all means. So we should not be condemning one way or the other. The goal is for us to be free. And we are going through several channels to be free. The last moment is referendum if you do it very well. And I'm sure Yoruba will say, let us go to 1963 Constitution. It gives us freedom to decide what we want in our area, and then we'll not be able to do more, to even be free. So it's very, very relevant.
Thank you. On that, thank you very much. On that note, I'm going to, I've only got 10 minutes max to get out of this particular program and go and take a rest before my next program, where I will welcome the people of the Middle Belt to look at their own encounters of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Meanwhile, let me go straight on to my guests of today. Let me start with Bash Igwalabe. You have 5 minutes. Your final thoughts.
Thank you very much. I'm really going to focus very briefly on the question that you asked. You said, who is in the best position to conduct the referendum? Who is in the best position? You didn't say who should do it or how it should be done. You asked a specific question, which is, who is in the best position to conduct a referendum? Number one, we know that it is not the Nigerian government because, as the evangelist has rightly pointed out, they're totally indifferent. If they weren't indifferent, by this time, we will have had somebody say, actually, oh, maybe we should have it will have been discussed. They haven't done it. The second suggestion, I think also by Evangelist Ige, was that the UN was the best to conduct the referendum. And the question is, how do we get the UN to be involved? Because what the Alagba was saying was that they are not interested either, because I think Elder Fakunda was saying exactly the same thing, that the UN will not help or will not assist in dividing Nigeria, because the way we are is suitable to them. I mean, they're quite happy with the way we are at the minute. The question that so we have a problem. We can't rely on the Nigerian government to do it. It is not likely that the governors or the assemblies of the Yoruba states will take this up. So what do? We can't just do nothing. And my own personal view, and I've expressed this many, many times, is really the UN route. I think is the best we can, and as long as we articulate what we are looking for. And the question, finally, just to deal with Elder Fakunda's list, which was constitution, an approved map, a governance structure, and a blueprint. I'm not actually personally sure that is necessary before once we've decided that we are leaving by whatever means of referendum, we can then sit down and be making these decisions. There's no point. It's like putting the cart before the horse. You can't say all these things first, yes, and then you have a referendum and everybody says no anyway.
Thank you.
We have a referendum, we decide we're leaving, and then we all sit down. I mean, I have also written a constitution for myself. So that's just my own view. I would say we need to approach the UN, and it doesn't have to be one single letter. It could be many of
I don't want to go into better and clearer particulars, as we normally say. I'd like to be focused.
Fine.
Any more focus points of yours, please?
No, that's I was only interested in answering your question.
Thank you.
Which was who is in the best position to conduct the referendum.
Thank you. Bash Igwalabe, always a pleasure to have you. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
From the very first time I brought you into this program, a lot of people I know constructively fell in love with you.
Oh,
thank you so much indeed. I look forward to having you back. again. Eti dagba, eni dagba yeye, enu àlàáfíà le mama wa. That's wonderful what you've just done for us today. And thank you for joining me. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Let me go straight on to Elder Odede. 5 minutes. Your closing summary.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you very much. My summary will be very short, and I'm going to use Bashigun as my example. Now, the simple answer to all these questions is what I had said earlier, that we need to compel our houses of assembly and political leaders. We have to find a way to compel them to carry out that referendum. Why I'm using Bashigun as an example is this. He is a chief, and a very proud chief also. Now, let us imagine that he gets together with his fellow chiefs in, is it Ijesha, right? Can't they convince wọn? Ìjẹ̀bú-Ìjẹ̀ṣà, okay. Can't they convince our fellow chiefs wọn pé a fẹ́ ṣe referendum o, ẹ bá wa fọwọ́ sí ọ̀rọ̀ yìí? Just in that locality alone, ṣe mọ̀ pé with the chiefs and everybody tán bá ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí fọwọ́ sí tán fẹnu sí, àwọn tán yàn sílé ìgbìmọ̀ aṣòfin ò ní choice ju kán gbà sí wọn lẹ́nu lọ. Títorí pé àìtí dé point tí àwọn ojúlùmọ̀ ìlú, àwọn chiefs ìlú, àwọn àgbà ìlú, wọn ì tí máa sọ̀rọ̀ sí pé báyìí la fẹ́. Nǹkan tí a ṣe ń bẹ̀rù nìyẹn pé bóyá wọn ò ní ṣe, bóyá wọ́n máa ṣe. Ìyẹn number 1. Number 2, gbogbo nǹkan ló máa ń nídìí, ló máa ń ní history, ló máa ń ní gbogbo ẹ̀ tá a lè máa tú jáde. Ohun tó yẹ ká dìmú ńbẹ̀, tó yẹ ká dìmú nísìn, tá a bá ti gbà pé okay o, referendum lọ̀nà tá a fẹ́ gbà. Ẹ má jẹ́ a ṣì máa deal pẹ̀lú United Nations, ọjọ́ iwájú nìyẹn. United Nations gan tá à ń sọ yìí ní last month, wọ́n pe UNPO, there's a group called United Unrepresented Nations People's Organization. Wọ́n ní kí UNPO set up what they call an expert committee on self-determination. So UN gan ò tí gbogbo yìí tá à ń sọ pé wọ́n kọ kinní kan 48, wọ́n kọ kinní kan ìgbà colonial rule nìyẹn. Àwọn tán dẹ̀ wà colonial rule ló dá United Nations sílẹ̀. So a sì máa deal pẹ̀lú ìyẹn later. Ìtó matter jù ń bẹ̀, question tá a máa answer fúnra wa ni báwo la ṣe máa compel àwọn èèyàn wa láti ṣe nǹkan tá à ń fẹ́. Even question tá a máa béèrè gbogbo ẹ̀ a máa yanjú yẹn, but ká tiẹ̀ kọ́kọ́ compel wọn ná. Kí Bashigun kọ́ bá wa sọ fáwọn àwọn ojúlùmọ̀ wọn, àwọn chief ní Ìjẹ̀bú-Ìjẹ̀ṣà, kọ́ pè wọ́n jọ, kán jọ jíròrò lórí ẹ̀, káwọn náà fọwọ́ sí. Then we move forward.
Ẹ ṣeun. Ẹ jẹ́ ká dá dúró lórí ibẹ̀ yẹn. Inú mi dùn púpọ̀ nítorí wípé ní ọ̀dọ̀ àwa Gẹ̀ẹ́sì, once I say Gẹ̀ẹ́sì, I'm talking about the English, because United Kingdom 4 halves ni wá. Lọ́dọ̀ àwa Gẹ̀ẹ́sì, we talk about strategic community involvement in order to achieve partnership. Ìfiọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀. Kódà àpẹẹrẹ tẹ́ ẹ ṣe yẹn, inú mi dùn gan nítorí àwọn olóyè pọ̀ jántúrú nílẹ̀ Yorùbá. Gbogbo ilẹ̀ Yorùbá lolóyè. Ká tó wí ẹ máa gbọ́ kíní kan. Very good. Nice one. I thank you. Let me again thank you, Elder Alagba Femi Odedeyi. From the moment I came across you and I explained my plight simply, as far as Agbakomitonile Oòduà, is to continue to do joy, use this platform to bring together, I regret to say, and I'm not ashamed to say so, people with common sense, people who can articulate and present ways forward. That's the purpose. I thank Olodumare that people of like yourself responded. And again, I think it's the third or fourth time I've got you here. Thank you for agreeing. Each time I say, oh, I think we should go back and talk to the people some more. Mo dúpẹ́ púpọ̀ lọ́wọ́ yín, ẹ dàgbà ẹ dògbò. Kì í ṣe pé ẹnìkankan sanwó fún yín, wọ́n sanwó fún yín. Mi ò rí yín ká ẹ bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí sọ pé we haven't got money to do this. We want to raise money because you want to do this. Thank you for your financial contribution. Thank you for the energy you invest. And one good thing about your committee, ẹlẹ́sẹ̀ mẹ́ta ni ẹni ní Nigeria. You have representation in Nigeria, you have representation in the United States, and of course in United Kingdom. Àrùmẹ́ta tí kò ní dọ̀bẹ̀nù, àrùmẹ́ta tí kò ní dọ̀bẹ̀nù. Olódùmarè kó jọ̀wọ́ kó túbọ̀ bá mi ràn yín lọ́wọ́ kí ẹ lè bá wa ṣe àṣeyọrí àti àṣegbà yìí. Thank you so much for joining me again today. Mo dúpẹ́ púpọ̀. Ẹ jẹ́ kí n wá lọ sọ́dọ̀ last but not the least, Evangelist Babajide Ige, your final thoughts on today.
Thank you very much, Ma. In as much as it would have been best, honorable, ideal, route, ọ̀nà àti ìlànà, suggestion àti advice. Bó ṣe yẹ kó wà nílẹ̀ Yorùbá gẹ́gẹ́ bí bàbá wa alàgbà Fẹ́mi Ọdẹ́dèyí ṣe gbé sílẹ̀ yẹn. My generation totally disagree with you, sir, with all due respect. Why? Because Bíbélì sọ pé if the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do? Tí ìpìlẹ̀ bá ti bàjẹ́, kí ni olódodo lè ṣe? Kò sí àwọn tó olódodo lè ṣe. Even gbogbo àwọn chiefs wa ní Nàìjíríà, ìdí ìbàjẹ́ ni wọ́n wà. Okay, nígbà tí àwọn politicians, senators, House of Rep, governor ò tí ì dáhùn dìgbà yìí. Ṣé àwọn chief tí ó jẹ́ olódodo nínú wọn ti bá wọn sọ ní why tí wọn ṣe tí yield? Plus any senator, any kí ni gbogbo wọn ti corrupt. Èwo ló máa sọ fún Nigeria government or ló máa dé àsọ ní House of Rep or Senate wípé bóyá kan listen to Nigerian people or Biafra or Yoruba people wípé referendum? Of course not. Wọ́n máa wá ẹ̀sùn kan sí lẹ́sẹ̀ ní tọ́mádé ti wá ẹ̀sùn kan sí lẹ́sẹ̀ àwọn gan kò sí wọ́n ṣe nítorí pé ọwọ́ gbogbo wọn ti dọ̀tí, ọwọ́ gbogbo wọn ti korò, gbogbo wọn ti ṣe nǹkan tí ò yẹ kán ṣe, so kò sí olódodo kankan. So route yẹn ò lè work rárá. Tó bá dẹ̀ máa work, we are looking into another 50-60 years nígbà tó ti dá Nàìjíríà lẹ̀. So therefore, sir, I totally disagree with that route. So nǹkan tó máa ṣẹlẹ̀ ń sìn ni pé we will continue to rally, we will continue to campaign, we will continue to do our awareness until to get to a boiling point. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí bá a ṣe gùn Dr. ṣe sọ sà, sọ John, we a máa fọ àbí elder ni ó sọ, I can't remember, I'm sorry. And láti form government. Nigeria government is aware, àwọn náà ń ṣọ́ra ṣe ń sìn ni. Níṣẹ́ ló dà yẹn pé ikú ń dẹ̀dẹ̀dẹ̀dẹ̀ ń dẹkùn, à ń dẹ̀wọ̀n, àwọn náà ń dẹwà, olúkàlùkù mọ̀ ọ́n. Because Yoruba nation as it is presently, we are no longer under 1999 constitution. We are under international law. International community won't dispute here. Kò sí bí Nàìjíríà ṣe máa fọ́ tí kò ní kan international community kò ní pa wọn lára, United States, United Kingdom. That's why gbogbo náà ṣe ń ṣe ó kàn yẹ pé they have limit of what they can do and what they can say. Honorary ló máa ń gbẹ̀rù ẹ̀. So a máa kọ́kọ́ gbé ẹrù ara wa máa bá dé stage kan, máa bá dé boiling point. Tí wọ́n bá gbà lẹ́rọ̀, wọ́n á gbà lẹ́yọ̀. Ẹni tó máa kú ló máa kú ẹ̀.
Ṣáríbi tí ẹ bá dé yẹn, mo kókó bẹ̀. Ṣẹ́rí wọ́n fẹ́ gbà léle, wọ́n fẹ́ gbà lẹ́rọ̀. Àyíwọ̀n kì í ọlọ́jẹ̀ yẹ. Ẹ̀rọ pẹ́sẹ̀, òun ni tìgbín, ẹ̀rọ pẹ́sẹ̀, òun tẹ pupa. Ẹ bá mi focus on. Ṣẹ́rí mi tí mo bá yín sọ̀rọ̀ yìí. Ajíṣọlá ọmọ tẹ́lẹ̀ ogun, àwọn ń ṣe gbogbo yẹn. Kí n tẹ̀ sọ́n sí ni pé ohun tí àwọn alàgbà Ọdẹ́dèyí sọ pé ká ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ máa lọ fàkókò ṣòfò, ká máa rò wípé àwọn tí wọ́n wà ní ibi tí wọ́n ṣe àgúnláàgún tẹ̀tẹ̀ páwọn la fẹ́ ní kán bá wa ṣe, ẹ̀yin ò gbà yẹn. Ẹ̀kọ́ ǹtẹ̀ wá sọ sí ni pé ǹtẹ̀ yìí ń sọ ni wípé Nàìjíríà o, ẹ̀yin ẹ ti sáàkì Nàìjíríà. Referendum ẹ gbà pé wọ́n máa ṣe, ṣùgbọ́n àwọn ẹni wọ̀nyẹn wọ́n dẹ̀ tí wọ́n di ológbò tẹ́ ẹ̀ lè fi ṣọ́ ẹran díndín ṣé ọ̀rọ̀ mi ti yé yín ibẹ̀ ní kẹ́ ẹ jẹ́ ká fi sí.
Yes ma. So bó ṣe jẹ́ gan náà ni
adé afọkọ mi.
ẹ ṣe ẹ̀sán ẹ̀, thank you ma.
Evangelist Bola, sorry, Evangelist Babájídé Ìgè, inú mi dùn púpọ̀ láti ṣalábàápàdé yín, láti gbà yín lálejò. Ohun tí mo rí lára yín ni pé akíkanjú yẹn tí mo rí, ìyẹn ló jẹ́ kínní. Ẹ dákun ẹ wá là wá lóye. Mo dẹ̀ rí wípé ẹni tó gbangba sùn lọ́yẹ nìyí. Ẹ ṣé mo dúpẹ́. Wọ́n ní pírí lológo ń jí o, a kì í rókun rẹ̀ lórí ìta. Ẹni ṣòkun wo bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe ń lọ tẹ̀ ń bọ̀ ní gbogbo ìgbà ààbò Olódùmarè àdájú. Ẹ ní jẹ̀kan tán kẹ́ tó rí kan. Owó yín lẹ̀ ná. Níjọ́ kan tí mo pè yín ẹ wà lórí plane, mi rí kẹ́ máa béèrè owó fún plane. Abudí ń tómi òkun, abudí ń tómi ọ̀sà, ibi tí ẹ ti mowó náà, Olódùmarè kó ṣe àlékún fún yín. Ẹ ti wà nípò àgbà torí ọjọ́ orí kọ́ làgbà. Ẹni tó ń pè lágbàlagbà ní agbọ́mọlà, ẹni tá a lè sá sí lábẹ́, ẹ̀yin ti di agbọ́mọlà fáwọn ìran Ifẹ̀ Oòduà. Ẹ tó gbangba sùn lọ́yẹ́ ni. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe wá fẹ́ gba àwọn ọmọ Ifẹ̀ Oòduà tẹ́ fẹ́ gbà wọ́n là, kò ní jẹ́ ìṣòro fún yín. Gbogbo ilé aṣojú yín, mo tún kí yín lẹ́ẹ̀kan, mo kí yín pẹ̀lú tìfẹ́tìfẹ́. Àwọn aláṣepọ̀ ilẹ̀ Ifẹ̀ Oòduà wọ́n á bá mi dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín. Dúpẹ́, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, ma. It's my pleasure. Thank you. Ẹ ṣé.
Mi ò fẹ́ gbà yẹn kankan láàyè mọ́. Ẹnìkan tó ń jẹ́ Túnjí ó kó má dàbí ẹni wípé àmọ́ ohun tá a lè fẹ́ sọ tẹ́nìkan. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ń tẹ́ bá fẹ́ sọ jókì lọ́bẹ̀ oge. Alàgbà Túnjí ó.
Ẹ ṣé mọ́mì, ó kí gbogbo àwọn alàgbà tó wà lórí ètò yìí. Ẹ pẹ́ fún wa, Ọlọ́run á mú wa dé ilẹ̀ lérí. Mi ò fẹ́ gba àsìkò yín mà. Ṣé rí tí Mr. Jídé sọ, ó ní nǹkan tí ó máa ṣẹlẹ̀. Wọ́n dẹ̀ ti sọ̀rọ̀ yẹn tán. Ṣé rí àwọn political leaders wa ní ilé, a mọ nǹkan tó ń fẹ́. And Afẹ́nifẹ́re of today, a mọ nǹkan tó ń fẹ́. Bóyá wọ́n dẹ̀ ń fẹ́ restructuring ni. Tí wọ́n bá fẹ́ support kí Yorùbá nation wà, a ti rí ní ara wọn. Wọ́n ń lọ síwájú lẹ́yìn ni. So wọ́n ní clear or coherent goal tí wọ́n fẹ́. In fact, it's not clear to us. Ṣé rí mọ́mì nípa ọ̀rọ̀ referendum? It's pretty simple. Ìkọ́nú àwọn àgbà wa ti sọ̀rọ̀ kọjá lẹ́ẹ̀kan. A lè pe United Nations pé kọ́ wá bá wa ṣe fọwọ́ sí àti lọ àti ṣe. Wọ́n wò wá ràn ni, they already know. Ṣé rí ọwọ́ wa ló wà? Bá dẹ̀ ṣe máa ṣe wà pretty simple and straightforward. Kíní yóò le. Bàbá kan sọ̀rọ̀ lẹ́ẹ̀kan. Question ọbẹ̀ ni pé ṣé ẹ fẹ́ dúró fún current constitution àbí ti 1966 tí Western region wà? Nǹkan tá a máa fi gbégbá referendum nìyẹn. Tá a bá fi ìyẹn gbé igbá referendum tá a béèrè lọ́wọ́ àwọn èèyàn tí wọ́n dẹ̀ support wípé a ní overwhelming numbers of people tí wọ́n support wípé kí a dúpẹ́ Western region of 1966 nígbà tí bàbá Awólọ́wọ̀ la fẹ́, tí a dẹ̀ rí support yẹn, tí numbers yẹn pé a máa ní láti elect premier láàrin ara wa ni ní Western.
Ṣé níbi tí ẹ dé yẹn ti kọjá ẹjọ́ tí mo pè sí inú ilé ẹjọ́ yìí? Ibi tí ẹ sọ dé ó ti gbà tó.
Ẹ foríjì mi, ṣẹ́ni tí mo fi yàbára bẹ̀ ni pé the way forward.
Ẹ má mi ò gbà if you encourage you don't yàbára. Ẹ má bínú. Ẹ ti sọ kókó ọ̀rọ̀. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín alàgbà. Mo dúpẹ́ ẹ ti sọ kókó ọ̀rọ̀. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín. On that note, I want to once again thank all my guest speakers of honor who kindly gave their time to come and join me on a Sunday afternoon. I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for the quality and quantity of your contribution. As usual, should I require you to continue this dialogue, I most certainly hope you will respond again. I thank you once again for joining me. Whilst I want to turn to those in the Zoom area to say, it's been wonderful to have your company on a day when, before yourselves, we've had to tackle the Yoruba referendum, the story so far, and we seem to have concluded that election campaign is a referendum. But I think one tangible outcome of today has to be that we are inconclusive. There's no doubt that Yoruba referendum, the story so far has got us to a position where it's best for us to do this ourselves. It's best for us to do this ourselves. That's the position of the Yoruba Referendum Committee. On the other side, Odua Media, is the company, the ministry of Evangelist Babajide Ige. He's saying these people are not trustworthy, that we cannot even trust our own Yoruba. Unti wọ́n sọ nìyẹn, evangelist ni àwọn olóyè wọ, a lè gbára lé wọn torí wípé àpẹẹrẹ tá a ti rí, àpẹẹrẹ wọn ò jọ tẹni tí ó ṣe gbára lé. Alàgbà Ọdẹ́dèyí, Yoruba Referendum said quite clearly, àwọn Yorùbá ẹlẹ́rù ló ń gbẹ́rù ẹ̀, ẹlẹ́rù ló ń gbẹ́rù ẹ̀. I guess that is where the Yoruba referendum story is at the moment. That should it be intervention of the United Nations? Should we consider ourselves, by referring ourselves to United Nations, that we are still going to invite the colonial supremacy to come and help us to take control of our lives? And I guess a final point is we don't need to. If we want to really govern ourselves, maybe this is the time to prove that we are capable of doing so. Whilst Alagba Fakponda is saying, we want to eat pounded yam, but we still need to plan. And all of that. It's been a wonderful session as we come to the end of this particular program of Agbakonitoni Odua. I want to say thank you very much for joining me, and I look forward to your company again, assisted by Alagba Frank Bello of Liberty Media Communications, somebody I have known for over 30 years. Thank you very much for joining me, Mr. Bello. Mi máa ń dùn ní pé àwọn tí mo bá tí mo tájọ nígbà tí mo pàdé wọn tí mo ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ wá ní òṣèlú, Olódùmarè jẹ́ kí n rí ìwà náà hù. You are still with me. I look forward to your company in the near future. Oh, near future? Few hours time, when I will have in this house the people of the Middle Belt talking about their encounters. On that note, I say a very good night to you all, and thank you for joining me. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yes, we go.
Pleasure.
Thank you. All
Thank
right.
you.